I was watching the evening news in my own living room when my daughter-in-law snatched the remote from my hand. "Go to your room, old man," she snapped. "This is my space now." My son stood in the doorway, eyes on his phone, silent as a stone. I waited just one word, one defense. Nothing came. I looked at him one last time, picked up my keys, and walked out. The next morning, a man in a suit rang the doorbell. She had no idea what was about to happen. "I'm grateful you're here. Before we continue, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And what time is it there?" I read every single one. It was a Friday evening like any other, or so I thought. I was watching the evening news in my living room when my daughter-in-law snatched the remote from my hand. The screen went black. It was 6:30. Outside, the Phoenix summer heat was finally breaking, and the air conditioning hummed softly. I sat in my brown leather armchair, the one Rosalind and I bought 40 years ago. The coffee on the side table was still warm. For 40 years, this had been my time. 6:30, PBS NewsHour. Rosalind used to curl up on the couch with her tea, and we'd watch together. Even after she passed 4 years ago, I kept the ritual. Some nights I swear I could still smell her lavender soap. But that Friday, everything changed. Autumn stormed in with a ring light in one hand and her phone in the other. "The lighting is completely wrong with that TV on," she snapped. She didn't ask, or wait. She just reached over and took the remote from me. The silence felt sharp. "Go to your room, old man," she said already, setting up her ring light on the coffee table. "This is my space now. I have 10,000 followers waiting for my workout stream. My space. In my house. The house I'd paid for, raised my son in, and watched my wife take her last breath." I turned toward the kitchen. Owen stood there in dusty work clothes, fresh off a long haul. He'd heard everything. Our eyes met. I waited. One word, just one. Something like, "That's not okay." Owen looked at his phone. "Not now, Dad," he muttered and walked toward the garage. Not now. Something hardened inside me. I'd been making excuses for months. Owen was tired. Autumn was stressed. They needed time. I told myself to be patient to keep the peace. But peace isn't peace when it costs your dignity. I stood up. My knees cracked loudly in the quiet room. 66 years announced themselves all at once. Autumn was adjusting her ring light, angling it toward my chair. She didn't look at me. I was already invisible. I walked to my bedroom and opened the bottom drawer of my dresser. Beneath my keys was a blue folder I'd kept since closing day. I opened it. Property deed, Vaughn Gregory James, sole owner. The paper felt solid in my hands. In the Navy, I learned that paper carries weight. Words vanish. Paper does not. I tucked the folder under my arm, grabbed my keys, and walked back through the living room. Autumn's phone was already recording. "Hey, lovelies. Sorry for the delay. Just a little interruption," she chirped. I walked to the front door and paused. I looked at the couch where Rosalind used to sit, the photos of Owen as a boy, and the ring light burning where my coffee had been. Then I stepped outside and closed the door. Not a slam, just a quiet click. I drove away slowly. In the mirror, I saw Autumn smiling at her camera, standing exactly where I'd been. For 4 years, I'd made myself smaller. Helpful turned into useful. Useful turned into invisible. But that night, I finally knew where I needed to go. 2 hours later, I pulled into a parking lot I hadn't visited in 2 years. The Veterans Lodge smelled like coffee and old leather, the kind of place that felt like coming home after a long deployment. It sat on the east side of Phoenix, a low brick building with a faded American flag out front, lit by a single spotlight. I'd been here twice before, once for a retirement party, once for my friend Miller's funeral. He'd passed the same month Rosalind did. I remembered standing in this lot back then, wondering if I'd ever return. Tonight I had nowhere else to go. The front door was unlocked. Inside the lobby was small but tidy. A worn leather couch faced a television playing the late news on mute. A coffee maker gurgled on a side table, the pot half full. Behind the desk sat Holden Mercer. "Greg Vaughn," he said, standing up in surprise. He was 62, retired Navy, like me, with gray hair and a handshake that still meant something. "Haven't seen you since Miller's service. What brings you here?" I set my keys on the counter. "I need a room, Holden. Just a few days." He studied my face and didn't ask questions. Veterans know when to speak and when to open a door. "Room 3's open. You need anything else?" "Yeah," I said, placing the blue folder down. "I need advice. Family trouble." He poured 2 coffees and sat with me. I told him the basics, my son and daughter-in-law living with me for 4 years, the disrespect building tonight's confrontation, and my son standing silent, while his wife told me to go to my room. When I finished, Holden leaned back. "You need Jag. Judge Advocate General. Family law property issues. Free legal help. You earned it. You think it's that serious? She told you to leave your own living room. Your son didn't stop it. Yeah, call them now. I stepped into the office and dialed. The Navy teaches calm under pressure. The line rang twice. JAG Legal Assistance Commander Sheffield. I explained everything. Where I lived, how long they'd been there. No lease. The disrespect. Feeling like a guest in my own home. Mr. Vaughn, she said, check your property records online. Sometimes family members add themselves to titles without permission. My stomach dropped. Holden already had his laptop open. We pulled up the county recorder's site and entered my address. Owners Vaughn, Gregory James, and Reeves Autumn Marie. The room tilted. I never signed anything. Check the date, Holden said. 6 months ago. I searched my email. There it was, Owen asking me to sign a utility update form. I'd signed it without looking. She used that, I said. Commander Sheffield's voice turned cold. This is fraud. Forgery of a deed is a felony. I'll prepare eviction papers by morning. But first, I need to dig deeper. Sometimes there are layers. Layers? What kind, I asked. The kind that means she's done this before. Get some rest. The call ended. I stared at the screen, my name beside one that didn't belong. For 6 months she'd owned part of my home and I hadn't known. Holden handed me the key to room 3. The room was small but quiet. No cameras, no ring lights. As I lay there staring at the ceiling, one thought echoed. What else didn't I know? I barely slept that night. Commander Sheffield had said layers, and by Saturday morning I couldn't shake the feeling she'd found something serious. At dawn I sat in the lodge's small library, scrolling through Autumn's social media on Holden's laptop. That's when I saw it, a photo dated 2016 tagged in Sacramento. A man's arm was wrapped around her waist. The caption read, Forever starts today. But Autumn didn't marry my son until 2018. I took a screenshot and sent it to the number Commander Sheffield had given me. Found something. Can we talk? My phone rang within 2 minutes. Send me the link, she said. I'm cross-checking marriage records now. At 9 sharp, the video call came through. Commander Sheffield appeared on screen. Crisp Navy uniform, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. No small talk. Show me the photo. I turned the laptop. She studied it. Sacramento. 2 years before your son's wedding. Her fingers moved quickly. I'm sending documents. Print everything. We're comparing signatures. Minutes later, 3 papers lay on the table. The quitclaim deed, adding Autumn to my property, my real signature from a license renewal, and a California marriage certificate. Look closely, she said. Your real signature, the V in Vaughn, has a loop. That comes from habit. 30 years signing contracts, I said. Now the deed. She zoomed in. Different V. No loop. Someone copied your name, but not your muscle memory. She leaned back. This is felony forgery. The evidence sat there undeniable. What happens now, I asked. We wait. I'm still running her background. 30 minutes. Holden brought coffee. I barely tasted it. 28 minutes later, my phone rang. Mr. Vaughn, sit down. I am. Autumn Marie Reeves never divorced her first husband. Archer Quinn, married in Sacramento, June 12th, 2015. I searched every county. No divorce. None. My stomach dropped, meaning it means her marriage to your son is legally void. She committed bigamy. That's a felony in Arizona. She is not your daughter-in-law. She has no property rights. The deed is invalid and criminal. I thought of Owen, 3 years of marriage built on a lie. He doesn't know. Likely not. There's more. Archer Quinn filed a missing person report 2 years ago. She vanished after draining their joint account $30,000. He's been searching for her. She's done this before. Yes. Your son may be her second victim. Commander Sheffield paused. Archer is still her legal husband. If I contact him, this escalates police charges, possibly multiple states. Your son will learn everything. I looked out the window. Somewhere in my house, Autumn was probably sleeping, unaware the truth was closing in. He deserves to know, I said. Call Archer Quinn. She nodded. One more thing. Your son may be angry with you. Victims often blame the one who exposes the lie. I remembered Owen's silence in that doorway. I'd rather have an angry son who knows the truth than a silent one being used. Understood. I'll proceed. The call ended. I sat there surrounded by proof of fraud, forgery, and bigamy. The woman in my home for 4 years wasn't who she claimed to be. The marriage was theater, performance, lies. Holden appeared. You look shaken. Worse, I said. I finally see the truth. I spent Saturday night staring at the ceiling. Commander Sheffield's question echoing in my head. Are you ready for this to get bigger? By Sunday afternoon, I had my answer. Spread across the library table was a 3-page action plan that would have made my old commanding officer proud. In the Navy, we had a saying, proper preparation prevents poor performance. 30 years in construction management only reinforced it. You never walk into a fight without knowing every angle. Commander Sheffield called at noon. I've drafted the notice to quit. 30 days to vacate. Standard eviction. I also contacted Sacramento PD. Archer Quinn wants to speak with you today. Set it up, I said. The video call came through at 2. Archer Quinn appeared on screen, early 40s, worn down dark circles under his eyes. He sat in a police interview room. Mr. Vaughn, he said quietly, I'm sorry for what happened to you. Autumn is still legally my wife. I never wanted anyone else hurt by her. Tell me what happened, I said. We married in June 2015, Archer explained. Everything seemed fine. Then in 2016, she said she needed space. She gave me divorce papers, official-looking stamped. Said she'd file them. I signed. A month later, I came home and she was gone. $30,000 drained from our joint account. She vanished. He swallowed. The next year, I tried filing taxes and learned we were still married. Those papers were fake. She never filed anything. I've been looking for her ever since. $30,000. She's done this before, I said. Yes. I found old emails later from a man in Oregon, 2014. He called her by another name. They talked about money. I don't think I was her first victim. And I doubt your son is her last. The room felt colder. This wasn't family drama. This was a pattern. Would you provide a sworn statement, I asked. Already done, Archer said. Sacramento PD has it. I want her stopped. If testifying puts her away, I'll do it. After the call, Holden and I assembled the evidence with military precision. The forged quitclaim deed, adding Autumn to my house. Owen and Autumn's 2018 marriage certificate. Archer and Autumn's 2015 marriage certificate still legally valid. Archer's affidavit. The police report. Commander Sheffield called again. Process server is set. Tucker Haynes. Retired Marine. He'll serve the notice Monday at 10 a.m. Your address. Perfect. One more thing, she said. You need to tell your son before that. She was right. I texted carefully. Son, we need to talk. Monday, 11 a.m., Veterans Lodge. Come alone. Delivered, then silence. Hours passed. I couldn't eat. I kept checking my phone. At 9 p.m. it buzzed. Dad Autumn says you're being dramatic, but I'll come. She doesn't need to know. I read that line 3 times. She doesn't need to know. After years of watching him choose silence, those words gave me something I hadn't felt in days. Hope? My son was still there. The boy I raised to value truth over comfort. Maybe he was waking up. I replied, 11 a.m. Just you and me. Thank you. Holden looked over. He's coming. He is. I folded the plan and slid it into the blue folder, and she doesn't know. What happens at 10, he asked. I pictured my house, my living room, that ring light. At 10, I said softly, the war starts. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. At 9:58, I sat in Holden's truck across the street from my house, waiting. Through the windshield, I could see my living room window. The ring light was already set up, the same one from Friday night. She was preparing for another performance, unaware this would be her last. Holden sat beside me, coffee in hand, silent. Years of deployments had taught him when words weren't needed. This was one of those moments. At exactly 10 o'clock, Tucker Haynes rounded the corner. 58 years old, retired Marine, pressed shirt-leather folder, tucked under his arm. His walk was steady and purposeful, the walk of a man who knew his job and did it well. He climbed my front steps and knocked. 3 firm raps. Professional. Final. The door opened. Autumn stood there in workout clothes, phone in her hand, ring light glowing behind her. Her lips moved. She was live streaming. Hold on, guys, she said under the camera, irritated. Someone's at the door. Autumn Reeves, Tucker asked. She angled the phone toward him. It's Autumn Vaughn, actually. Not according to California records. Tucker opened the folder. I have legal documents for Autumn Marie Reeves. Her face shifted confusion, then fear. Tucker extended the envelope. You're being served. Notice to quit this property. 30 days to vacate. Page 3 includes an affidavit regarding fraudulent marriage and identity theft. Her hand froze midair. On camera, thousands watching. What her voice sharpened. This is my house, he can't. Actually, Tucker said calmly, Gregory Vaughn is the sole legal owner. Your name was added fraudulently. The evidence is on page 5. Autumn grabbed the envelope and tore it open. Her eyes scanned page 1, then flipped to page 3. When she saw Archer Quinn's name, her body went rigid. She looked at Tucker, then at her phone. For a second, panic, calculation, and rage flickered across her face. Then she forgot the camera was on. Shit, she muttered. How did he find? She fumbled with the phone hands shaking, trying to end the stream. It nearly slipped from her grasp. The screen finally went dark. Too late. Thousands had watched her receive an eviction notice, heard the word fraudulent, heard her admit she'd been hiding. Tucker continued evenly. You're advised that bigamy is a felony in Arizona. You have the right to legal counsel. He turned and walked away as calmly as he'd arrived. Autumn stood frozen in the doorway, clutching the envelope. Then she slammed the door so hard I heard it across the street. Through the window, I watched her pace phone to her ear hands flying, calling the lawyer, calling Owen. My phone buzzed. Owen, Dad, Autumn just called screaming about lawyer's bigamy and some guy named Archer. What's going on? I'm leaving now. Lodge in 40 minutes. I showed Holden. He nodded. Your son's showing up. Maybe to understand, I said. Or maybe to yell. Either way, Holden said, starting the truck, he's coming. That's more than Friday. He was right. Friday, Owen chose silence. Today, he chose to show up. I took one last look at the house. My house. The forged signatures, the fake marriage, the lies, now documented, undeniable. Holden pulled away. Where to? Back to the lodge, I said. We've got 40 minutes. 40 minutes for what? For Owen to see the truth, I answered quietly, whether he wants to or not. 43 minutes later, I heard the lodge's front door open. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. Then Owen appeared in the doorway. He entered the library at 10:47. His work shirt was wrinkled. His tie yanked loose. He'd clearly rushed out mid-shift. But it was his eyes that stopped me. Confusion was there, just as I'd expected. Underneath it, though, was something else. Fear. He started talking before he fully stepped inside. Dad, Autumn says you hired some guy to harass her, that you forged documents to kick us out. She's crying. She says, sit down, son, I said evenly, please. He froze mid-sentence. Something in my voice, calm, tired, final, made him pull out the chair across from me and sit. I slid the blue folder across the table. Before you say anything else, read page 1. Owen picked up the document. I watched his eyes move line by line. Marriage certificate. Autumn Marie Reeves and Archer Quinn. Sacramento, California. June 12, 2015. His face drained of color. That can't be right. She showed me divorce papers, official stamps, a judge's signature. Fake, I said quietly. Commander Sheffield verified it. No divorce decree exists in any California county. Not one. She was married when she said vows to you. But we have a wedding album, Owen said, hands shaking as he set the paper down. Her family was there. Her sister was maid of honor. Were they really her family? I asked. When's the last time you saw them? When's the last time her sister answered your calls? Owen opened his mouth, then closed it. The defensiveness faded, replaced by doubt. I turned my laptop toward him. Commander Sheffield appeared on screen, uniform, crisp expression, firm. Mr. Vaughn, she said, I'm Commander Bryn Sheffield, Judge Advocate General. I've spent the last several days verifying these records across multiple states. Then, because this case involves identity fraud, forged property documents, and crimes spanning California and Arizona, JAG coordinated directly with civilian law enforcement. That's why things moved quickly. Owen stared at the screen. Your ceremony with Ms. Reeves has no legal standing, Sheffield continued. She was already married. That's bigamy. It's a felony. 3 years, Owen whispered. We built a life, joint accounts, photos, everything. All built on fraud, Sheffield said gently. I'm sorry. You were never legally married. I slid another document forward. This is a sworn affidavit from Archer Quinn, her legal husband. Owen read, his hands trembling. She stole $30,000 from him, he read aloud. He filed a missing person report. He's been looking for her for 2 years. He looked up at me, eyes glassy. Dad, she stole from him. Yes, and now she was with me. His jaw tightened. Last month, she asked me to add her name to your house deed. Said it was for insurance. I printed the form. When I asked, she kept pushing. I didn't do it because something felt wrong. His voice cracked. She was going to steal your house, too. She tried, I said. She forged my signature 6 months ago. That's why she's being evicted. Not you. Her. Owen buried his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. When she told you to go to your room? His voice broke. I said nothing. Tears streamed down his face. What kind of man does that make me? I stood across the table and gripped his shoulder. A man who was manipulated, I said. A man trying to keep the peace. A man who made a mistake. I squeezed his shoulder. But a man who showed up. He nodded slowly, wiping his face. I don't know how to fix this. One step at a time. I leaned back. Archer's flying in tomorrow. He's pressing charges: fraud, theft, bigamy. The prosecutor will ask if you want to file charges too. I met his eyes. That choice is yours. Owen sat silently for a long moment, jaw set the same look he used to get before facing something hard as a boy. Then he looked up at me. Tell me what we do next, Dad, he said. Tell me how we fight back. That word mattered. We. My son had come home. Owen moved his things into the lodge that night. We stayed up late with Commander Sheffield on speakerphone mapping out next steps. But when Tuesday morning arrived, we discovered something neither of us had planned for. By sunrise, Autumn's carefully built world was collapsing and the entire internet was watching. Holden found us at breakfast, phone in hand. You two need to see this. The live stream clip had been ripped from Autumn's account and reposted everywhere. 200,000 views overnight. The comments were merciless. She got served on camera. Did she really say, "How did he find me"? Wait, bigamy? Someone had titled it, "Fitness Influencer Gets Reality Check Midstream." At 3 in the morning, Autumn had attempted damage control. This is elder abuse, her post read. A confused man is attacking me because I won't enable his delusions. No one bought it. The top comment had 15,000 likes. You said, "How did he find me" on your own live stream? That's guilt, not confusion. Another asked Autumn Reeves. So Autumn Vaughn was fake too? Who is this woman? Owen stared at the screen, coffee untouched. It's everywhere. Good, I said. Let people see the truth. At 10 o'clock, Archer Quinn walked into the lodge. He looked just like on the call, early 40s, worn down by years of searching. When he saw Owen, he stopped. You must be Owen, Archer said, offering his hand. I'm sorry this happened to you. Owen surprised us both by pulling him into a brief hug. Thank you for coming forward, for stopping her. I've been looking for her for 2 years, Archer said quietly. When Commander Sheffield called, I almost didn't believe it. She found us, I said. We just refused to stay victims. At 11, Detective Reese Camden arrived from Phoenix PD's fraud unit. Sharp, efficient, all business. She took statements from all three of us, documenting everything. With the live stream footage, multiple victims, and forged documents, I can secure a warrant today, she said. Mr. Quinn, your Sacramento report gives jurisdiction for theft. Mr. Vaughn Sr. The forged deed is felony fraud. Mr. Vaughn Jr. identity fraud charges are available if you choose. Yes, Owen said immediately, all of it. The afternoon passed in paperwork and official statements. Detective Camden moved fast. She knew how quickly people like Autumn disappeared. At 2 o'clock, Owen's phone buzzed, his face drained of color. A friend just drove by the house. There's a U-Haul in the driveway. She's loading boxes. I showed the message to Camden. She's running. Camden was already calling it in. Units to the address. Female suspect, mid-30s, U-Haul rental. Active warrant. Detain. She looked up. We'll have her soon. It happened faster than expected. At 4:37, Camden returned from the hallway with a restrained smile. We stopped her at a gas station near Interstate 10. She was heading west. She's in custody at Maricopa County Intake. The room went quiet. Owen leaned forward and exhaled slowly. It's over, he said. The arrest is, Camden replied. The case is just beginning. She turned to us. Her house keys were taken as evidence, but you can have them released. Owen looked at me. I nodded. Yes, I said, we'd like that. Outside, in the late afternoon sun, Owen placed a hand on my shoulder. Dad, I'm not ready to go back to the house yet. That's fine, I said. We'll go when you're ready. He smiled, small, tired, real, together. So did I. We drove to the police station in silence. Owen's hands were folded in his lap, knuckles white. I kept my eyes on the road, the low desert sun painting the asphalt orange. Neither of us had much left to say, not yet. At the station, Detective Camden handed Owen the keys. They'd been logged as evidence, tagged and photographed. Owen signed the release form without reading it, his signature shaky. When he stepped back toward my truck, he turned the key ring over in his palm, like he'd never seen it before. Maybe in a way he hadn't. The house felt different when I unlocked the door Tuesday evening. Emptier, but truer. The ring light was gone from the living room window. The air didn't smell like her perfume anymore. It smelled like dust and silence. Owen stood in the doorway, staring at the brown leather armchair where I used to sit before Autumn, switched off the TV and told me to leave. He swallowed hard. I should have said something that night. he whispered. I should have stood up. You're standing now? I said quietly. That's what matters. We started cleaning. Owen swept the hardwood floors. I wiped down the counters, threw out half-empty protein shakes, and unopened mail addressed to Autumn Vaughn, a name that never legally existed. She'd built a whole identity on paperwork that meant nothing. In the hall closet, Owen found a cardboard box, labeled Wedding 2018. He opened it slowly. Inside were framed photos, Owen in a rented tux, Autumn, in a white dress smiling at a courthouse. But underneath the frames, Owen pulled out a stack of printed emails correspondence between Autumn and a photographer in Oregon, dated 2015, discussing wedding album reprints. Owen's hands trembled. She used the same photos, he said, voice hollow. She just photoshopped my face over someone else's. He sank onto the couch, the album in his lap. His shoulders shook. Not with anger, just grief. Grief for the lie he'd believed. Grief for the man he'd become while defending it. I sat beside him. Owen, you're not the villain here. You're a victim, too. He looked up, eyes red. I let her treat you like that. You were scared, I said. Scared of losing her. Scared of being alone. But fear isn't weakness, son. It's just fog. And fog clears. My phone buzzed. Commander Sheffield Gregg, I've had 4 calls today from other veterans. Same pattern, daughter-in-law or son-in-law. Fraudulent deeds, bigamy in 2 cases. They want to know what you did. They want help. I showed Owen the message. He read it twice, then looked at me. Dad, we can't let this happen to other people? No, I agreed. We can't. Owen set the fake album on the coffee table, standing slowly. For the first time in days, his jaw was set, not in anger, but in purpose. So what do we do? I thought of Holden at the lodge, of Archer Quinn who'd flown out to help a stranger, of Commander Sheffield who'd worked a case pro bono because it was the right thing to do. I thought of my wife Rosalind who used to say, strength isn't what you hold on to, Greg. It's what you give away. We help them, I said. We teach them what we learned, documents, evidence, boundaries, how to say no before it's too late. Owen nodded slowly. When do we start? I looked at him, my son who'd walked out of the fog and back into the light, who'd chosen his father over a lie, who was ready to turn his pain into purpose. Soon, I said, very soon. 3 months passed. Autumn pled guilty to fraud and bigamy. 18 months in prison restitution to all 3 victims. Archer finally got his money back. Owen finalized the annulment. The legal chapter closed, but for my son and me, a new one had just begun. On a late spring Saturday morning, I stood before 20 veterans and their families at the Phoenix Veterans Community Center. Owen was setting up the projector behind me, and for the first time in years, I felt like we were exactly where we were supposed to be. Holden stepped up to the microphone. Welcome to Protecting What's Yours, an elder fraud prevention workshop, led by Greg Vaughn and his son, Owen. I clicked to the first slide, warning signs of quitclaim deed fraud. I kept my voice steady the way I used to brief my crew in the Navy. I let someone into my home. I trusted my son's judgment. And slowly, quietly, I lost control of my own space, until one night, she told me to go to my room, in my own house. The room rustled, heads nodded, they understood. 2 other men stood, Jim, 68, and Frank, 71. Archer had connected them to us. Same woman, Jim said quietly. Same pattern. She targeted veterans because we're trained to trust the chain of command, and she placed herself inside the family. I clicked to the next slide, forged signatures. Bigamy. Financial abuse. Here's what I learned. Silence isn't weakness. In the Navy, we're trained in tactical silence. But there's a difference between strategic quiet and accepting disrespect. I stayed silent too long, and silence in the face of abuse becomes permission. The workshop covered practical steps. How to check property records online, what a quitclaim deed is, and why you never sign one under pressure. How to verify someone's marital status using public records. Red flags like isolation and rushed legal documents when to contact JAG Police or Adult Protective Services. Then Owen took the microphone. His voice didn't shake. I'm standing here as the son who failed. When that woman told my father to go to his room, I looked at my phone. I said nothing. He paused, jaw tight. I was abused too emotionally, financially. She isolated me from friends, controlled money, made me doubt reality. I didn't see it until my dad showed me evidence I couldn't deny. Owen's voice grew stronger. I learned something. Painful love without boundaries isn't love. It's enabling. My dad gave me a roof, gave me space, but when I let someone disrespect him, I crossed the line from gratitude to exploitation, and I almost lost him. A recorded video message from Commander Sheffield played on the screen. Every veteran who comes forward helps us build cases and protect others. You are not alone. After the Q&A, veterans approached us. One older man, tears in his eyes, gripped my hand. My daughter's boyfriend's been pressuring me to put his name on my house deed. I didn't know how to say no. Now I do. By late afternoon, Owen and I drove home together, exhausted but satisfied. At the house, Owen had officially moved back in on healthy terms with clear boundaries. We grilled burgers together on the back patio, simple, quiet. At 6:30, I walked into the living room and sat in my brown leather armchair. Owen appeared with 2 beers. Mind if I join you for the news? I'd like that, I said. He held out the remote. Your house, your remote, Dad? Sit down, son. We'll watch together. He sat on the couch. PBS NewsHour played. No ring light, no camera. Just a father and his son. Owen glanced over. Dad, thank you for not giving up on me. You're my son, I said quietly. I'll never give up on you. But I'll also never let anyone, even you, forget my worth. That's not cruelty. That's love with boundaries. I'm still learning that, Owen said, but I'm grateful you're teaching me. The remote sat on the coffee table between us. Neither of us reached for it during the commercial break. We didn't need to fight for control anymore. We'd both learned the same lesson. Respect isn't demanded. It's demonstrated. And in my home, under my roof, on my terms, respect was no longer optional. It was the foundation. I glanced at my son. He was watching the news, present focused. The man I'd raised had come back, and this time he knew who he was. The screen flickered. The anchor's voice filled the room. And for the first time in 4 years, my house felt like home. Looking back at my story now, I see how close I came to losing everything. Not just my house, but my son, my dignity, my peace. If you're watching this and thinking, that's me, that's my house, that's my kid standing silent while someone disrespects me, don't wait like I did. Don't let 4 years pass before you say no. Here's what I learned, and I pray you'll hear. These boundaries aren't cruelty. They're love in action. Silence isn't strength, it's surrender. And your home, your name, your life, they're worth protecting. God gave you a voice for a reason. Use it before the paperwork gets signed, before the ring light goes up, before you're locked out of your own living room. This isn't just another video you scroll past. This is a true story, my true story. I'm sharing it on this channel because grandpa stories like mine aren't just entertainment. They're warnings. They're lessons from the trenches of life. Grandpa stories teach you what schools never will, how to protect your worth, how to set boundaries, how to say no when love turns toxic. This true story cost me 4 years. Don't let it cost you the same. If this helped you, or if you know someone who needs to hear these grandpa stories, please hit like, subscribe, and share this with your family. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you love? Let's help each other stay strong. The worst thing I ever heard wasn't a stranger's insult. It was my own son's voice on Christmas Eve saying, Dad, if you want to stay here, pay rent or find your own place. 30 people watched. No one defended me. But here's what Trevor didn't know. The luxury penthouse he lived in. The career he proudly bragged about, the life he thought he'd built with his own hands. I had quietly funded all of it. And that night, while forced laughter still echoed outside, I silently packed my suitcase in the bedroom. No explanations. No goodbyes. I just left in silence, carrying with me the decision to teach my son the most painful lesson of his life. 2 days later, he screamed when he received 3 emails from me. I'm grateful you're here with me. Before I tell you what those 3 emails said, leave a comment. Where in the world are you right now, and what time is it? Let's connect for a moment. Let me take you back to that night. The smell of roasted turkey filled the penthouse. I'd been up since 6 that morning, prepping the bird, making cranberry sauce, whipping mashed potatoes. My hands were stained red from peeling beets. My back ached, but I didn't mind. This was Christmas. By 8 p.m., 30 guests had arrived. The penthouse gleamed. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan, Chicago's lights, twinkling like a postcard. Trevor stood near those windows in his tailored shirt, holding court. His wife, Tiffany, circulated with her phone, snapping photos of the chandelier, the tree, the food I'd spent all day preparing. Babe, come here, she called, posing by the dessert table. Blessed Chicago living, Christmas done right, she typed. Not a single mention of who'd cooked that food. I carried wine glasses into the living room. My cousin Stephanie reached for one. Alex, sit down. You've been on your feet all night. Trevor's voice cut across the room. Actually, Dad, could you grab more ice? We're running low. I nodded, turned back. Stephanie frowned. Trevor, your father, isn't the help. He's fine, Steph. Trevor's tone was dismissive. Right, Dad. I didn't answer. I got the ice. When I returned, Trevor was mid-story with his cousin Eric. So the client wanted this ridiculous cantilever design. I had to explain that physics exists. But hey, that's why they pay me the big bucks. Laughter rippled through the group. This place must cost a fortune, Eric said. Gold Coast isn't cheap. $8,500 a month, Trevor said casually, but worth every penny. Location, views, amenities, you pay for quality. Tiffany appeared at his elbow. Trevor works so hard. He deserves this. We deserve this. I moved toward the corner where my brother-in-law Jim stood nursing a bourbon. You doing okay? Jim asked quietly. Fine, I said. You sure? Because watching you play caterer, it's his place? I said, even though the words tasted like ash. Jim gave me a long look, but said nothing. By 10 p.m. dessert was served. I'd made pumpkin pie from scratch. Trevor's favorite since he was 8. I cut slices, plated them, handed them out. Trevor didn't even look up. Stephanie finally broke. Alex, please, sit down. You made all this and haven't touched a bite. The room quieted. Trevor set down his fork. Actually, Stephanie, since we're all here, I think it's time we had an honest conversation. My stomach dropped. Trevor stood. Dad, you've been living with us for 3 years. We love having you here. But Tiffany and I are trying to build our own life, and frankly, it's getting hard to do that with you here. Rent-free? What are you saying? I asked quietly. If you want to keep living here, you need to start contributing. Pay rent like any adult. Or maybe it's time you found your own place. Something more appropriate for your situation. The room was silent. Uncle Jim cleared his throat. Trevor, that's your father. Uncle Jim, this is my house. I pay the bills. I work 60-hour weeks to afford this. I think it's fair to expect everyone here to contribute. His house, his bills. I felt something crack inside me. Stephanie tried again. You can't seriously... I'm being realistic. Trevor looked around for validation. Some nodded. Most looked at their plates. We all know how the real world works. Nothing's free. Tiffany added, We're just being honest about finances. It's healthier this way. I stood slowly. 62 years of labor made themselves known in my bones. You're right, I said quietly. Trevor blinked. It's time I stopped taking advantage of your generosity. I walked toward the hallway. Dad, wait, I didn't mean tonight. I turned back, looked at the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the teenager I'd helped through homework, the graduate I'd cheered for. I understand perfectly, I said. I walked to my room and closed the door. Through the walls, I heard someone try to restart conversation. Anyone want more pie? Awkward laughter, murmured excuses, coats being gathered. I pulled a duffel bag from the closet. 3 changes of clothes. My toothbrush. The photo of my wife, Sue. Outside, Tiffany hissed, Did you have to do that tonight? It needed to be said, Trevor replied. He needs to understand reality. Reality. I zipped the bag. Tonight my son had made his choice. Now I'd make mine. I didn't go far that night. Just to my real apartment in Lincoln Park, the place Trevor didn't know existed. It was a modest 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a brick walk-up. No doorman. No lake views. Just a quiet street lined with bare winter trees and a corner bodega that stayed open late. I climbed the stairs with my duffel bag, unlocked the door, and stepped into the silence. The apartment smelled faintly of dust and old books. I hadn't been here much lately. 3 years of playing the role of dad who needs help meant most nights were spent in that back bedroom at the penthouse. But this place, this was mine. Truly mine. I set the bag down and looked around. There wasn't much. A worn couch, a small kitchen table, a bookshelf crammed with urban planning texts and 40 years of tax records. And on the wall above the couch, a framed photo of Sue. She was smiling in that picture, taken on our 20th anniversary at a little Italian place in Wicker Park. Her hair was starting to gray, her hands rougher than they'd been when we met. But her eyes? God, her eyes were bright. Sue had always told me, Alex, make sure he learns the value of hard work. Don't just give him everything. I thought I'd been doing that. Turns out I'd been doing the opposite. I sat on the couch and stared at that photo for a long time. People think building wealth is complicated. It's not. It's simple. Brutal but simple. You save more than you spend. You buy what others won't. You wait when others panic. You work when others sleep. Sue and I started with $8,000 in 1998. We bought our first building, a 4-flat, in Logan Square that everyone said was a teardown. We fixed it ourselves, rented it out, took the profit and bought another, then another. 40 years of that. 40 years of saying no to vacations, no to fancy cars, no to the life everyone else was living. And now Mitchell Properties LLC owned 38 buildings across Chicago, portfolio value $185 million. Trevor thought I was some broke old man living off his charity. I almost laughed. Then I remembered his face tonight, the way he'd looked at me like I was a burden. The laugh died in my throat. I didn't sleep much. Just sat there until the winter sun came up over Lincoln Park, pale and cold. On December 26th, I drove downtown. The streets were quiet, half the city still digesting Christmas leftovers. But I had work to do. The Mitchell Properties office sat on the 42nd floor of a glass tower in the Loop. I'd kept my ownership quiet for years. To the world, Kevin Reynolds was the CEO, the public face, the man who signed the deals and shook the hands. Kevin was waiting when I walked in. So was Laura Davidson, our attorney. Alex, Kevin said, standing. He was 45 sharp in a gray suit, but his face looked tired. Are you sure about this? I sat down across from him. I've never been more sure of anything. Laura opened her laptop. I pulled everything. The lease, the vehicle authorization, the credit card account. She turned the screen toward me. The numbers were damning. Trevor's lease agreement signed 3 years ago. Monthly rent $2,800. Market rate for that penthouse $8,500. Discount 67%. Vehicle authorization Cadillac. CT5 value $48,000. Registered to Mitchell Properties LLC. Temporary use Trevor Mitchell. Insurance maintenance. Everything paid by the company. Credit card American Express Platinum. Primary account holder Alex Mitchell. Authorized user Trevor Mitchell. Total spending last 6 months $58,000. Fine dining designer shopping weekend trips. All on my dime. Kevin leaned back in his chair. If we pull all this at once, Alex, it's going to hit him hard. He's going to lose the apartment, the car access to funds, everything. I know. This will destroy him. I looked Kevin in the eye. No. This will build him. Laura slid 3 documents across the table. Termination notices. Legal. Clean. Final. Notice of lease non-renewal. Effective January 31st. Vehicle return request. Immediate revocation of authorization. Credit card cancellation effective upon submission. I picked up a pen. Kevin tried one more time. Alex, he's your son? That's exactly why I'm doing this, I said quietly. I signed all 3. Laura gathered the documents. These will be sent via email and certified mail. He'll receive them by tomorrow morning. Good. Kevin stood, shaking his head. I hope you know what you're doing. I walked to the window. 42 floors up Chicago stretched out beneath me. All those buildings, all those lives, all that work. Trevor thinks he built his life, I said, still looking out at the city. He needs to learn what building actually costs. I left the office as the winter afternoon turned gray. By noon tomorrow, December the 27th, 3 emails would hit Trevor's inbox, and the life he thought he'd built would disappear. I sent the emails at 9 a.m. on December 27th. Then I waited. Kevin called me 2 hours later. He's panicking. I was sitting in my Lincoln Park apartment, staring at Lake Michigan through the window. The water looked gray and cold, like how I felt inside. What's he doing? I asked. Calling the property manager, asking questions. He got the lease termination notice. Kevin paused. Alex, are you sure about this? I'm sure. He doesn't know it's you. The paperwork just says Mitchell Properties LLC. He thinks it's some faceless corporation. Good, keep it that way. I hung up and sat in silence. My coffee had gone cold. I didn't touch it. The next morning, December 28th at 10:30, Kevin called again. The repo team just picked up the Cadillac. I closed my eyes. I could picture it, two men in reflective vests, clipboard in hand, Trevor standing on the curb in his expensive suit, trying to stop them. How did he react? He tried to argue, said it was his car. They showed him the registration, Mitchell Properties, LLC. He looked like he'd been punched in the gut. I didn't say anything. Alex, he's your son. I know who he is, Kevin. At 2:15 that afternoon, Laura Davidson called. Her voice was tight. Tiffany's Amex was declined. She called the bank. They told her the primary cardholder, you canceled it. I know. She's asking questions, Alex. She knows something's wrong. Let her ask. I hung up and walked to the window again. Across the street, a father was teaching his daughter to ride a bike. She kept falling. He kept picking her up, over and over. Sometimes love means letting them fall. Sue had told me once years ago when Trevor was struggling in college, so they learned to get back up on their own. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass. That evening, Kevin called a third time. He's asking who owns the penthouse. I told him it's confidential client information. Did he believe you? Nobody can't prove anything. Kevin sighed. He looks lost, Alex. Really lost. He needs to be lost, I said quietly, before he can find his way. On December 29th, my phone rang early. Edward Thompson, Sue's father, Trevor's grandfather. Trevor just showed up at my door, he said, desperate, defensive, asking if someone's sabotaging him. My chest tightened. What did you tell him? Nothing yet. I told him to sit down. Edward's voice softened. You want me to tell him the truth, Alex? I looked out at the lake again. The sun was rising, turning the water gold. Tell him everything, I said. About the money. About me crying on Christmas night. About how I built Mitchell Properties from $8,000. Tell him his rent was $2,800, not $8,500. Tell him the Cadillac was never his. Tell him the credit card was mine and he spent $58,000 in 6 months like it was nothing. That's going to destroy him. I know, but he needs to hear it from family, not from me. Not yet. Edward was quiet for a moment. You're a braver man than I am, Alex. I'm not brave. I'm just a father. That night, Edward called again. I told him, Alex, about the money, about you crying on Christmas, about everything. There was a pause. Tiffany left him an hour ago. He's alone now. I closed my eyes. My son was broken, and I'd broken him. Good, I whispered. That's where the learning starts. I didn't call Trevor. Not when Kevin told me he'd moved to Pilsen. Not when Edward said he looked broken. Not even when Helen called crying, asking me to forgive him. Alex, he's your son. She sobbed into the phone in late January. He's riding the CTA to work. He looks so tired. But different. Different how? Quieter? Humbler? She paused. Like he's finally growing up. I hung up and sat at my desk in the Mitchell Properties office on Wacker Drive. Outside, the Chicago River reflected the gray winter sky. Inside, I was surrounded by everything I'd built, 38 buildings, $185 million, 40 years of work. But none of it mattered if I couldn't do this one last thing right. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder. Inside, Trevor's birth certificate, his high school diploma, his acceptance letter to Northwestern, a photo of him at 8 years old holding a toy hammer, grinning at the camera. I traced the photo with my finger. Where did I lose you, son? Then I heard Sue's voice, not real, just memory, but clear as the day she said it. We were in the hospital 3 weeks before she died. She'd gripped my hand, her fingers thin and cold. Promise me, Alex. Teach him what real wealth means, not money, character. I promise, I'd whispered. Now sitting alone in my office, I was keeping that promise, even if it was killing me. On February 10th, Kevin knocked on my door. Scott Nelson hired him, he said. Affordable housing project in Englewood, $2,800 a month. I did the math instantly, half his old salary. How's he taking it? Kevin smiled slightly. He said yes without hesitating. I nodded, not trusting my voice. March turned into April. April into May. Kevin gave me updates. Trevor was working hard. No complaints. No shortcuts. No bragging on social media. I'd checked. He'd deleted most of his posts from before Christmas. I wanted to call him 100 times. My finger hovered over his name in my contacts, but I never pressed it. Not yet, I told myself. He's not ready. I'm not ready. On a Thursday afternoon in late May, I found myself driving through Pilsen. I told myself I was checking on a property. I was lying. I saw him on 18th Street, walking toward the Blue Line station. He wore jeans and a t-shirt, a backpack slung over one shoulder. His face was thinner, his skin darker from the sun. He looked lighter, like he'd put down something heavy he'd been carrying for years. I pulled over and watched him disappear down the stairs into the station. Then I sat in my car and cried, big ugly sobs that shook my whole body. "I miss you, son," I whispered to the empty street, "but you're becoming who you were meant to be." I drove home and didn't go back to Pilsen again. In late June, Kevin forwarded me an email. Subject: investor meeting. Inglewood Affordable Housing Project. Presenter: Trevor Mitchell, project coordinator. Date: July 15th, 2024, 2 p.m. Location: Mitchell Properties, LLC, Conference Room B. I stared at the screen. Trevor didn't know I was the president of Mitchell Properties. Kevin had kept that quiet. As far as my son knew, I was just a maintenance man who'd gotten lucky. Now he was going to walk into that conference room and pitch his project to me. I closed my laptop and looked out at the lake. "Okay, Sue," I whispered. "Let's see if he's ready." July 15th, 2 p.m. I sat at the far end of the conference table staring at the door. Kevin leaned over. "You sure about this, Alex?" I nodded. Then Trevor walked in. He froze when he saw me. Just for a second, his eyes widening, his step faltering, but he recovered fast. Kevin stood. "Everyone, this is Trevor Mitchell. He's presenting the Inglewood Project." Trevor's gaze swept the table, landing on me last. I kept my face neutral. Gray suit, steady eyes, no smile. He looks different, I thought. Thinner. His button-down was simple. Wrinkle-free, but not expensive. His hands, when he opened his laptop, looked rougher. Real hands. Working hands. "Good afternoon," Trevor said. His voice was steady. "The Inglewood Affordable Housing Initiative. 120 units. $8.5 million. Laura Davidson, our CFO, leaned forward. "Cost per unit, $70,800. Trevor didn't hesitate. "We're selling at $85,000. 30% below market for new construction in Cook County. Target buyers. Working families. Annual income $35,000 to $55,000. Teachers, nurses, CTA drivers. People who've been priced out but make too much for public housing." I watched him answer Laura's questions clean, confident, no BS. Not the Trevor from Christmas throwing around numbers he didn't understand. This Trevor knew every line of his budget. Another board member frowned. "Inglewood's challenging. Why there?" Trevor paused. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I met a kid there, Dylan, 10 years old. He wants to be an architect. But he's growing up in a neighborhood where most people rent, where eviction notices are normal. If we build stable housing, we're not just constructing apartments. We're building futures." My jaw tightened. That's my son. That's really him. Laura wasn't done. "Timeline? 18 months. Break ground September, finish March 2026. Permits filed. The city fast-tracked us." She nodded, made a note. Trevor closed his laptop. 6 months ago, I thought success meant a penthouse and a company car. Then I lost everything. Moved to Pilsen. Started over." He looked around the table. His eyes landed on me. And I learned something. The best things I built weren't buildings. They were relationships. People who believed in me when I had nothing. I felt something crack inside my chest. "This project matters." Trevor continued, still looking at me. "Because I know what it's like to fall. And I know what it's like to get back up. These families in Inglewood deserve that chance." Silence. I cleared my throat. "How much of your own money are you putting in?" Trevor met my eyes. "Everything I've saved since February. $12,000. $12,000 on a salary of $2,800 a month. He'd been saving every penny. I nodded once, motioned to approve. The room shifted. Kevin raised his hand, then Laura, then all 6 board members. "Congratulations, Trevor," Kevin said, smiling. "You're a project director." Trevor shook hands around the table. When he reached me, he extended his hand. I took it. His palm was calloused. "Thank you, sir," he said quietly. "Sir, not Dad." He still didn't know. "You earned it," I replied. After the meeting, Trevor turned to leave. I wanted to stop him, to hug him, to say I'm sorry and I'm proud and I love you. But I didn't, because the lesson wasn't finished yet. He still needed to choose me, not because I gave him money, but because I'm his father. 2 days after the board meeting, I approved Trevor's $8.5 million project. Then I went home and sat alone in the dark for 3 hours, wondering if I'd waited too long. On July 17th, Kevin knocked on my office door. "The permits are filed, contractors signed. Trevor's moving fast." He paused. "When are you going to tell him, Alex?" "When he's ready." Kevin studied me. "Or when you're ready?" I didn't answer. He left quietly. The rest of July blurred into August. Kevin sent me weekly updates. Trevor was ahead of schedule. Budget tight. No issues. I read every email 3-4 times looking for clues about how my son was doing. Is he happy? Does he think about me? I wanted to call him 100 times. My phone sat on my desk, Trevor's contact right there. Mitchell Trevor. I'd stare at it during meetings, during lunch, late at night, in my empty apartment. My finger would hover over his name, but I never pressed it. On August 10th, I felt the first chest pain, sharp like someone pressing a fist into my sternum. I sat down, waited for it to pass. It did, but it came back the next day, and the day after that. You're 62, Alex? I told myself, staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Gray hair, deep lines around my eyes. How much time do you have left? I didn't go to the doctor. I told myself it was stress, indigestion, nothing serious. On August 15th, Helen called. Have you talked to him yet? Edward's worried about you. Not yet. Alex. Her voice was gentle but firm. Pride is a lonely companion. I looked around my Lincoln Park apartment. 1 bedroom, 1 chair, 1 coffee cup in the sink. She was right. I know, Helen. Then do something about it. But I didn't. I sat there for another 2 days watching the sun set over Lake Michigan, wondering if I'd ruined everything by waiting too long. On August 17th, I was working late in my office. 9 p.m. The building was empty except for security downstairs. I was reviewing Trevor's latest budget report when the pain hit worse than before. My chest clenched. My left arm went numb. I reached for my phone, pulled up Trevor's contact. Just call him. Tell him you're proud. Tell him you love him. Tell him. The room tilted. My phone slipped from my hand and clattered onto the desk. Then everything went black. I woke up to fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic. A doctor stood over me, checking a monitor. Mr. Mitchell, you're at Northwestern Memorial. You had a cardiac episode. Stress-induced. You're stable now, but you need rest. What time is it? 11:30. I tried to sit up. Pain shot through my chest. My son. I need to call my son. The doctor pressed me back down gently. Let's get you stable first. No. My voice came out hoarse. Call him. Trevor Mitchell, please. A nurse appeared beside me. She had kind eyes. We'll call him. What's his number? I recited it from memory. She stepped away, phone to her ear. When she came back, she handed me my phone. We called him. He's on his way. I closed my eyes. 8 months. 8 months of silence. And now when I might have waited too long, he was finally coming back. Please, God, I thought. Let me have enough time to tell him I'm sorry. I woke up at 12:43 a.m. to the sound of a door opening. Trevor stood in the doorway breathing hard like he'd run all the way from Pilsen. His eyes were red. Dad! I tried to sit up. Pain shot through my chest. The heart monitor beeped faster. Trevor! He crossed the room in 3 steps and stopped at the edge of my bed, staring at the IV in my arm, the wires taped to my chest, the oxygen tube under my nose. Dad, I'm sorry. His voice cracked. For everything. For being blind. For being cruel. I know, son. He pulled a chair close and sat down, his hands gripping the bed rail. Why did you do it? His eyes searched mine. Why let me think I'd done it all myself? I took a slow breath. My chest ached, but not from the cardiac episode. Because I wanted you to believe you could. My voice came out weak but steady. Your whole life people told you that you succeeded because of my money. Teachers, friends, even strangers. I saw it in your eyes every time someone said it. That doubt. That question, could I do this without him? Trevor's jaw tightened. I wanted you to know deep in your bones that you could build something real on your own, that your success wasn't a gift from me. It was you, your work, your talent, your heart. But you let me humiliate you, Trevor whispered, in front of 30 people, on Christmas. I did. I reached for his hand. He took it immediately. Because I didn't want you to love me because I was rich. I wanted you to love me because I'm your father. Trevor's face crumpled. Tears spilled down his cheeks. I wasn't the man I thought I was. No, I said gently. You're better. Now you're real. Now you know the difference between a gift and something earned. And that's worth more than any penthouse or car. His hand tightened around mine. I felt the roughness of his palms, calluses from construction work, from carrying lumber and mixing concrete. These weren't the soft hands of the son who demanded I pay rent. These were working hands. Real hands. Your mom would be proud, I said quietly. I am too. Trevor let out a sound, half laugh, half sob. I thought I lost you. You didn't lose me, Trevor. You found yourself. And that's what I've been waiting for. We sat in silence after that. The machines beeped softly. A nurse peeked in, saw us holding hands, and quietly closed the door. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand, Trevor finally said. You weren't ready before. Now you are. What happens next? I smiled. You finish the Englewood project. You build homes for families like Dylan's. You become the man your mother always knew you could be. And you? I get to watch. Trevor wiped his eyes with his free hand. I'm not leaving, Dad. Not tonight. Not ever again. Good, I whispered. My eyelids felt heavy. The medicine was pulling me under. That's all I wanted. I felt his hand squeeze mine one more time before sleep took me. When I woke again at sunrise, Trevor was still there asleep in the chair beside my bed, his hand still holding mine. His head was tilted back, his mouth slightly open, exhausted. For the first time in 8 months, I didn't feel alone. The lesson was over. My son had come home. December 24th, 2024. Exactly 1 year after Trevor told me to pay rent or leave. This time we were both in my Lincoln Park apartment, the real one, and he'd just handed me a check. I looked at the number. $120,000. 1 year's rent, Trevor explained. $8,500 a month times 12, plus back rent I never paid. He met my eyes. I want to make it right, Dad. I smiled. Then I tore the check in half, then in half again, and again. Dad, you don't owe me rent, Trevor. I dropped the pieces on the coffee table. You never did. He stared at the torn paper. But I cost you so much. The penthouse, the car, the credit card. You didn't cost me anything. I sat down on the couch, patted the cushion beside me. Sit. He did. I could see the changes in him even more clearly than at the board meeting. His face had filled out a little. He wasn't skipping meals anymore. His hands were still rough with work. His eyes were clearer. Let me tell you about this year, I said. In August, the hospital discharged me with instructions to rest. Trevor came by every Tuesday and Thursday evening. We'd eat dinner, usually take out, and talk. Not about the past. About the Englewood project. About his ideas for affordable housing. About life. In September, the Englewood project broke ground. Trevor sent me photos of him in a hard hat, standing with Scott Nelson and a crew of 20 workers. Dylan was there too, holding a toy shovel, grinning. In November, I offered Trevor the Gold Coast penthouse back. It's sitting empty, I told him. He shook his head. I like Pilsen, Dad. It's real. That's when I knew the lesson had truly stuck. In early December, Trevor got his first paycheck as project director, $6,200 a month. He called me that night. Dad, I did the math. This is what I can actually afford. No discounts. No help. Just my work. I could hear the pride in his voice. Not arrogance. Pride. So you see, I said now on Christmas Eve, you already earned your place. Not because you're my son. Because you're good at this. Trevor nodded slowly. What happens next? I'd been waiting for this question. I want to offer you a position. Director of Affordable Housing Development. You'll oversee all social housing projects for Mitchell Properties. Real salary. Real authority. Real work. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. His eyes glistened. Thank you, Dad. Don't thank me. Earn it, like you've been earning everything else. We ordered pizza for dinner. Not filet mignon, not lobster, just pepperoni pizza from the place down the block. We ate on the couch watching the snow fall over Lake Michigan. Last year, I said quietly, 30 people watched you humiliate me. This year it's just us, and this is all I ever wanted. Trevor set down his slice. I'm sorry it took me so long to understand. You weren't ready before. Now you are. We sat in comfortable silence after that. No grand speeches, no dramatic moments. Just a father and son together on Christmas Eve. As Trevor left that night, he turned back at the door. Merry Christmas, Dad. Merry Christmas, son. I closed the door and sat down looking at the torn check on the table. Pieces of paper worth $120,000 now worthless. Real wealth, I thought. This is what it looks like. Not money, not buildings, not a portfolio worth $200 million. A son who comes back, a relationship rebuilt, a man transformed. That's wealth. I'm 67 years old now. 5 years have passed since that Christmas Eve when I sat alone looking at a torn check worth $120,000, realizing what true wealth really means. Looking back, I understand something I wish I'd known sooner. I almost waited too long. 8 months of silence, a cardiac episode, a hospital room at midnight. That's what it took for me to stop being stubborn and just tell my son I loved him. Don't Don't be like me. If you're a parent reading this true story, don't wait for a crisis to teach your children what matters. Yes, sometimes tough love is necessary. Yes, sometimes our children need to fall so they can learn to stand on their own. But don't let pride keep you silent for so long that you almost run out of time to say, I'm proud of you. I love you. Here's the lesson I learned. Real wealth isn't measured in buildings or bank accounts. It's not the penthouse you own or the company you built. Real wealth is the son who rushes to your hospital bed at midnight. It's the relationship you rebuild from broken pieces. It's watching your child become someone you're genuinely proud of, not because of what they own, but because of who they are. Trevor's 40 now. He's director of affordable housing development at Mitchell Properties. He's built 6 housing projects across Chicago, providing homes for over 700 families. Last month, he opened Susan Mitchell Family Homes, named after his mother, dedicated to helping single parents find stable housing. When he called to tell me, his voice cracked. I hope Mom's proud, Dad. She is son, and so am I. God gave me a second chance when that ambulance arrived on time. Not everyone gets that gift. So I'm sharing this true story, one of those grandpa stories about hard lessons, tough love, and second chances, because maybe it'll save you from making my mistakes. Maybe it'll remind you that time is precious and the people we love won't wait forever. Love your children enough to let them struggle, but love them enough to tell them you're proud when they find their way. That's what this true story taught me. If this touched your heart, I'd be honored if you'd share it with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's a parent struggling with a difficult child. Maybe it's someone who wonders if it's too late to make things right. Maybe it's a son or daughter who needs to understand why their father made hard choices. These grandpa stories matter because they remind us family isn't about perfection or money. It's about showing up even when it's hard. It's about second chances and the courage to say, I'm sorry and I love you. What's the most important lesson your father or grandfather taught you? Leave a comment below and share your story. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs today. And if you want more grandpa stories like this, real honest stories about family redemption and what truly matters, please subscribe to this channel. Every story will speak to your heart. Thank you for listening to an old man's reflections. God bless you, your children, and the generations to come.